is the top of the hour. However, I want to, procedurally speaking, we do need to have all five members of the board present in order to constitute this meeting. So we're going to give another moment or so. I saw Ginger, I saw Valerie, Kyle, or Mark. They both said they were going to make it. So let's just give them a minute or so. And the reason we're waiting rather than jumping in, just so that folks are aware of the rules behind all this, is the meeting, the rules for a special meeting are that it has to be called within 3 business days. I called it on Friday for today, which is not 3 business days. And so that means that all five board members have to be present. And then by being present, it constitutes a waiver of notice, according to the bylaws. And so that's why the meeting cannot be validly begun, without the other two, I believe. Yes. So we'll just give a moment. We will scan the participant list for when they arrive. So we're just going to be in a holding pattern for a moment. Lena, Kyle is emailing me saying he's dialed in and he's hearing music, and that the music. So is he in a alternate space or?
Unless he dialed into let me check and see what he did. In
He may need to dial in again, but maybe
dial
maybe
into the board meeting one.
oh, yeah, that went to your email, so I'll let you handle that while I just remind folks who are patiently waiting here, that we're in a holding pattern right now. In a few minutes, I'll change directions and I'll tell you how we would plan to do that in a moment. But basically, as I was stating before, and for the benefit of the people who've just arrived, in order to have a valid special meeting on fewer than 3 business days notice, as this one is, I do need to have the positive presence of all five board members, or else the meeting would not be validly constituted according to our bylaws. I understand that Kyle is trying to dial in. Mark has indicated to me by email that he is intending to attend. So if within a couple of minutes we do not have the board members, we can speak. It's just that no business would be able to be
Scott is logging in now. Sorry to interrupt.
okay, so I see Mark dialed in. Mark's in. And as soon as we see Kyle, he might have been in a parallel universe of meetings that happens to me at work all the time. usually with Kyle, we'll see, I think it's 803 or something like that. We'll see a phone number.
How is everybody today?
Pretty good, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking.
We're just waiting for Kyle to get logged in. He's been trying to log in, but he might be in a different online space. So we will give him
So
a moment.
I did email that information to him,
Okay.
so it's just a matter of him reading that. I don't know, Ginger keeps falling off. I'm not sure what's happening with her. Her line.
So what I'll do to respect the time is while we're figuring out Kyle's access. So I will not I cannot call to order a meeting at this time because we do need to have that fifth person present. Nonetheless, we can speak while we're on the line. I will start by way of a summary of why we're here for those of you that didn't have an opportunity to read my message that was sent to the community or maybe just scan the highlights of it. In a nutshell, and if you did read my letter carefully, thank you. And some of this will be repetitive and or an update. What we discovered in the last couple of days is, or before the weekend started, is that our fire emergency water pump, which is a pressurized water system that pumps water up into the common area sprinkler systems in the building, is failing. And as a result of that, we have been given notice from the fire marshal, naturally, to correct the matter. And I wanted to make sure in my message to the community that we're taking it seriously, but I also don't want to overstate in the sense that, there's a difference between being an increased risk of fire and being more vulnerable if one should occur. And we are in the latter situation. So there's nothing about the building right now that is making it more likely that there will be a fire, on any today more than any other day. The danger and the risk that we're facing is that if God forbid a fire should occur, we are significantly impaired in the ability to suppress that, particularly during the time between any outbreak and when the fire department should be able to arrive. And in particular, this would be the case if there were a major fire where we would be relying on common area sprinkler systems to potentially stop the spread of a fire. Of course, we do not have sprinklers in our individual units, as you know. We are referring to common area sprinklers. And so with there being insufficient pressure in that pipe, it does put us in a more vulnerable situation when it comes to this vital health and safety topic. Melina was made aware of this last Friday. She contacted the board immediately, and I decided that it would be best if we could have a meeting about it so that we could chart the way forward. Also, when you divide out the short term versus the long term response, the short term is this thing called the Fire Watch, which I didn't know about until Friday, but I've been educated on this subject by Melina. And so what a Fire Watch is a company it's like a security company, except they perform fire watch services. So they come in and they will patrol the hallways and the common areas on the hour, every hour, and that's a 24-hour a day, 7 day a week mandate from the fire marshal until we can get this fixed. Now, that is something that Melina's been obviously working on. We'll discuss that in more detail in a moment. But that's the short-term fix. That's what we're required to do. So until this pump can be repaired. So far, what we're hearing is that the repair time on this pump is going to be measured in months. And that is unfortunate because, you know, it of course increases the time and expense of having to maintain a fire watch. But repair this we must, and we will chart the way forward tonight. Do we see Kyle yet?
No, not yet. I did text him as well, the number, so just in case my email is delayed getting to him.
You might also ask Melina if he is having any trouble at all and just wants us to be able to get started, he can reply back saying that he waives notice. And then that would allow me to begin the meeting. So either he has to be here or say, I waive my right of notice, or else we have to kind of continue in this informal space. So that's where things stand. We do have a bid on the table of, you know, give or take, it's approximately is approximately $100,000. So that's, you know, obviously a significant expense. However, it's not as bad as that number sounds, because this is an expense that is actually in the reserve study on 2027. So we're 3 years early on this. We did not expect this to reach the end of its lifetime quite yet, but you know, it's something that is in the long-term plan of the building. It's just going to be accelerated, and it's going to cost about $100,000, give or take, in the shorter term rather than the longer term. And so, that reaffirms my faith in our reserve study, because they hit it pretty well. I mean, these are always estimates of how long a you know, major piece of equipment can last. So, you know, they were able to peg it within a few years, which I'm actually kind of impressed by. I wish it had been 3 years late rather than 3 years early. Of course, everybody would. But I want to let Melina kind of explain the latest developments. Once again, we are not in a board meeting yet. If Kyle can't get here, we can't do a board meeting. So I'm going to kind of call an audible and call this a town hall until Kyle might arrive. So Melina, what are the latest updates? One of the things that I know people want to know is, you know, how much does the fire watch cost on a, say, a weekly basis to maintain? You know, where do we stand up to the minute? I know you emailed some things to the board, but if you don't mind, just bring the community up to speed with what you've learned so far today.
So it is per hour, and I'm trying to determine whether or not I'm going to split this up with staff or have volunteers, like teach them how to do the fire watch so they can cut the cost. Or look, because actually the fire watch is through Associate. So I want to have an opportunity, most likely tomorrow, to do a price comparison and kind of cut that cost a little bit, because it's making it harder to do that and manage the special project. So on the average, it's like $30-something an hour to have them to do the watch. And so I'm going to shop around, since it appears that we're going to be doing this for a long period of time. And again, if I can have volunteers that do their walks, it's just an hour. It takes like 45 minutes technically to go through all the floors. Well, my pace, but it doesn't matter if it's, you know, you would just fill out the form at the time of, once you reach each floor, just complete the time that you reach each floor. And
I'm going to pause you right there, because I think I saw an 814 number. Is that you, Kyle? Are you with us?
yeah, that's
That's only got on.
Yep.
Okay. All right, great. Sorry, Melina, for
That's
the interruption. I'm going to switch now. We're gonna switch from a town hall. I'm now calling the special meeting to order at 7:15 p.m. We do have all 5 board members present, and so now we can make decisions if we need to. But Melina, pardon the interruption. So we are now in an actual board special meeting at 7:15. For the record, Valerie, 7:15. All right, Melina, you were saying, sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, so just to sum it up, I would like to find other price points to make the cost a little lower to do the fire watch. So that will be my task first thing tomorrow morning. And then I'll follow back up.
I have a question for you regarding the fire watch. So the $30 an hour you said is kind of a ballpark estimate so far. Do they work in teams, or are they this one person? So is it $30 an hour? Is it $60 an hour? Is it one person at a time?
It's one person within that 24-hour period, and then they rotate. So this week, until we had this meeting, I asked for someone to arrive at 2 p.m. to help out, because I've been doing the morning walk, and then of course I have to catch up with my work. So I asked that they show up at 2 p.m. until further notice. The weekend is definitely around the clock, but for right now, during a weekday, it's 2 p.m. And then they go, they stop at 9 o'clock a.m. the following workday.
Okay. And my follow-up question to that would be, there has been some expression of interest in volunteering to cut costs. And so my question to you is as long as they complete the same tasks and fill out the same logbooks and you would QC all that, is that acceptable to the fire marshal? It would be in good order. We wouldn't be dinged on that for not having a a professional fire watcher, so to speak.
No, absolutely. So what would happen is that person that's volunteering, I would take them through the run just to show them what I look for. You will open a trash room. You basically opening rooms, trying to smell or look at around any outlets just to make sure everything is good. And that's pretty much it. Just as long as if he happened to pull a person and say, how did you walk the floor? He may ask that question. So as long as they can answer accurately, then it's fine.
Okay. And you'd be obviously be the QC person on
Yeah.
that. Okay. So I think it's, based on that answer, I mean, I feel comfortable saying to the community that, if you wish to be part of a volunteer brigade, I know some people have already emailed me. I would say to contact Melina, by email, or if you see her when you're getting your mail or something like that. I just did some back of the envelope math, and $30 an hour times 24 hours a day, if we were doing 24/7, is $720 a day, and times let's just say 720 times 90 if it was a whole quarter. Let's just see what that would be. That would be, like $65,000 worth of fire watching costs if we would say have to do it for 3 months, and we are expecting that we might have to do it for 4 to 5. And so if you are so inclined, please note that you would be making a big difference and saving every hour, $30 hour after hour after hour for the association. I will certainly volunteer to do some shifts myself and to help in the effort. And I encourage anyone else to contact Melina because whatever we can do on a volunteer basis, we'll just cut that number, whether it's $65,000, $70,000, whatever we can cut it down, all the better. I want to pause here because that's the short-term part of the question. Are there any board members that want to ask a question of Melina about the present situation? And if so, Valerie, I see your hand. Go ahead, Valerie.
Thank you. Melina, I know we already talked about I'd be fine with volunteering. Is the monthly, or excuse me, the daily price, is it based on time, or is it whether they're doing the work, they being the company that's doing it right now? Is it whether it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock in the morning? Is it the same time? I only ask that because certainly, like I said, I'll gladly volunteer. I just don't want to do it at 2 o'clock in the morning. So is there?
Right. So So you don't really have to, what would really help me is during the day.
Okay,
And then I can ask them to come in the, before I leave.
mhm,
So they can obtain the keys to the building.
perfect,
Because they do have to turn the keys and return the keys every day. So when
Okay.
I arrive, they give me the keys and then they proceed on.
okay, perfect. So whether they're doing it during the day or in the evening, it's the same flat rate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, so Melanie,
Anybody
it's
else?
Kyle. Quick question. So do we have to just pay a daily flat rate, or so does that mean we have to have enough volunteers for an entire day for them not to charge us for the day? Or,
Oh,
you
so
know, you see what I'm saying?
the fire watch is every hour. So I did it for 2 hours today. I asked them to arrive at 2 o'clock because they left at 10 o'clock today. They left at 10 o'clock today. I asked that because it gives me opportunity to get started with my work and see what's going on, give a rising out the door, but it's every hour. So if someone volunteers, say Tom takes the hour and then you will come, like he starts at, I'm just giving an example, 1 o'clock, then you will come at 2 and start the show.
Okay, yeah. So if we had enough volunteers, I hypothetically say, and by the way, I'll volunteer for some hours. But if we had volunteers that said take up 5-6 hours a day, they're not going to flat rate us across the entire day. It would just be for the hours of the usage, and we're not locked into a contract for 24/7.
No, it's hours of usage. It's the time that they're actually on site.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right. Any other board member have a question for Melina? I do note some hands in the audience. I will get to some open forum questions in a moment, but I just want to make sure we flesh out some questions here to Melina first.
Yeah, I see some in the chat room as well. So, so the lead time, and Tom had mentioned about the timeline. Reason why it takes so long, because they have to customize the fire pump for the building. It's not just getting a part and putting it together. They have to customize, the fire pump. And Hank, hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, Emily, one other question. Is BFPE the only company that can do this type of work?
So they are not, but if you read your contract with them, I sent an email out to give you guys some notes where I talked to David from Faith Mechanical because he has worked in fire pumps. He doesn't do it anymore. He said it's very tedious, but I asked him some questions on pricing, and he seems to think that they're providing a fair cost. I looked at the reserve study as well to see what the estimated cost was for you guys' reserve study. They said 102K, and by the time of 2027, it will go up to 114. So they're kind of like in between because you have the backflow preventer that's being added in there. And I confirmed with David as well whether the building has a backflow preventer for the fire pump, and he's absolutely not.
Okay, thanks. So I'll take it as we're not soliciting any other quotes.
I can, it's up to the board, but the thing is that if we're doing that, that's gonna push more time. Because by the time you cancel this agreement with them and you go with another company, they have to come in, do their own assessment, and then order what they think we need. So we're back to square one. Because they can't go by what the BFPE is stating. So they will have to do another inspection.
Okay,
All right,
thank
so-
you.
All right, so this is a classic case of the same vendor who did the inspection and found the problem is going to be the one doing the repair, and if somebody else were to come in, they would want to do their own inspection. And okay, I got that.
Well, the fire marshal actually is the one that walks the premises with the contractor to ensure that everything is running smoothly. So it's not necessarily on the vendor. it's the fire marshal. He wants to see, the water pressure. He wants to see how the sprinkler reacts. He wants to see how the pump automatically turns on, when it's called to turn on. So that's kind of who basically is present and who makes these remarks that, hey, this is not functioning properly. We needed to get it up to par. So that's given to the vendor as well as myself. And usually the vendor and management work together to get these violations, they call it, resolved before he returns to the premises to do the re-inspect that fire pump again and other things that failed on his sheet.
Okay. Speaking of that, so Melina, you mentioned that the violation notice that I have taken a look at states that we have to remedy the situation by February, which is of course not possible given the timeline. How confident are you that the fire marshal will be understanding and giving us an extension of that, given that we'd be working in good faith? By that point, we'd obviously have a vendor, you know, contracted, but just we're waiting for parts and things like that.
Well, I have to have that conversation with him because he's going to say, well, the other things that are listed does not require that 3-4 month lead. And each time he comes, of course, is a cost, right? So I don't know what he will say, to be honest with you. He may say, I'll come back at this timeline. Maybe I'll come back and do the minor things, and pass those if it's been done properly. And then we'll worry about the fire pump when you guys get it installed. Call, because I worked with him before, this fire marshal at another site. And I've always updated him, like, it's not ready yet, it's not ready. He always said, give me a call. I don't know what he's going to say when I call him tomorrow to let him know, hey, this is what I received the proposal from BFPE, and this is the
You have to raise your
timeline
hand
for
or
the
something.
pump.
See the hand up?
This is the timeline for the pump, and
Okay.
can we have an opportunity to resolve this, or do you want to see the other items and then come back later for the pump? So I'll update the board on that
Okay.
tomorrow.
Okay. I mean, I think that's probably the only thing we can do, right? I mean, it's just be honest and upfront and say, listen, we're actively engaged in the matter. We've got this proposal. It doesn't seem like it'll be done in the time frame listed in the violation notice. Should we just call you when it's ready, et cetera, and it'll be in their court. If the fire marshal is feeling particularly officious, we could, I suppose, be fined by the city. I hope that if we're acting in good faith, we could avoid that, but only time will tell.
And I also wanted to let you know that I received an email after Thanksgiving from the insurance carrier. Apparently, I'm gonna go over these things with BFPE. They're following up. I don't know if this was during the time that your insurance was renewed, but they're asking about this fire pump, like were there certain things done, and if so, provide photos or documentation. For instance, improve fire pump churn testing procedures. Have we done that? So a lot of this stuff I have to work with AMTEC as well with the vendor to confirm if these things were done and respond back to them.
Okay. Before I get to some open forum questions, I want to ask the board, I mean, does it seem like what we want to do maybe is Melina will defray the fire watch cost by whatever degree, our volunteering allows. And B, do we want to commit to this BFPE, or, acknowledging some of the time risks involved, do we want to get another quote? Open question to the board if anyone wants to express a view on that.
Yeah, I don't think we have a choice but to go with the quote. I would ask Melina if there's any way in the contract that we could see if they could take care of the minor issues prior to the major issue that I understand is a long lead time. But at least, if nothing else, it shows better good faith maybe to the fire marshal in the city of Alexandria. And then in addition to that, with the insurance companies, as I've learned over the last 2 years, we are really forthcoming with information that usually typically comes back with us being charged more. So I would think we need to review the contract and share whatever we absolutely are required to share with them. And outside of the requirements, I don't think we share with them because we're not getting anything favorable from the insurance agency over the last 18 to 24 months. I'm not saying let's circumvent any rules. I'm just saying let's just follow the rules blindly, period. That's it.
I agree
think
with you,
typically
Kyle.
we've been oversharing.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kyle, 100%. Let's just follow the letter of the work to rule here, right? I mean, just follow the letter of the law on this and not give extra. Melina, what was the value? I don't have enough screens for it to be in front of me. What was the value of the proposal? Was it 100 and
It's 109, 155.
155? And that was with BFPE, right?
Yes.
Okay. So my question,
I have a question, Tom.
go ahead, Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
Is that price for providing the fire watch plus replacing the pump plus everything? I mean, I think we need to know what the total cost of this endeavor is.
This is for
She sent out the quote.
Piece.
Yeah, she sent out the quote. That was all for hardware and manual costs and then for fixing everything. I don't think it has anything to do with the Firewatch.
No, the
Melina, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, the Firewatch we're paying on an hourly basis as needed through I think Associa on call at this point. So this 109, 155 would be the cost of repair replace of the malfunctioning pump. What we will pay for the Firewatch will be a dynamic cost based on what kind of volunteer coverage we can arrange.
Okay, thank you.
It's going to be definitely more than 109,000, right? But since
Yes.
yeah, clearly. Okay, board. I want to, in a moment, we'll take a motion here so we can put a bow on this. But I want to give an opportunity for the community to ask something on their minds to us or to Melina. I know that anytime we're talking about fire safety and fire related things, it does put people at unease and it's a cause of concern. So I want to give a chance for people to ask some questions if they have them. I saw a hand up, but then I think it went down.
Oh, no, I lost him, I think.
Yeah, Barbara Rosen raised her hand, though. Barbara Rosen, would you like to? You have the floor, Barbara.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for the explanation, guys, and for having this town hall now board meeting. I'm wondering, what are the liability issues for Hallmark volunteers? And what happens, if something were to happen to Hallmark and we had volunteers on duty with our master insurance policy?
So I am on site, Barbara. So if anything occurs, I'm on site. I will not have any volunteers after I leave. Unfortunately, I cannot. Because the fire marshal, and I know him, he can walk in this building at any time. But as long as I'm on site, there's no problem. Because like I said, he's gonna walk up to that volunteer and ask them, what have you looked at? Let me see your log. That's why I created a form and I'm logging everything that I'm doing. What floors, whether there's any issues, details of any issues, and you place your initials. So your time, your start, your date, your start time from and to, and then there are some things on the back that you will complete as well. So I have created in-house Firewatch log sheet. And if anything occurs, you write on here what action was taken. I prefer that the volunteers are doing it while I'm present and have the ones that have been trained to come in during after hours and the weekends.
Melina, I know there's a couple more hands up. I'll get to them in a second. But these Firewatch people, did they wear some sort of a vest or something that identifies them as a Firewatch person?
So the gentlemen, the two that have been on the premises, they wore like a reflecting jacket,
Okay.
yellow, yeah, reflecting jacket.
Okay, that helps, just because if you see somebody in the hallway at 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, it's always, of course, you want to have somebody that you recognize and you understand why they're there. I don't know who was first, so let me go to Alex Robertson and then Hank Londoner after that. So Alex, you have the floor. If you need to unmute yourself, there you go.
Hey, thank you. Melina, thank you certainly for your diligence. I really appreciate it. And thank you to the board for taking prompt action on this. I had two questions that I wanted to raise. Number one, so that we're not overwhelming Melina, is our engineer able to assist with some of these fire watches? And then number two, my recollection, and I may be wrong about this, but I think Andy is still in the building. Is it possible that we could ask him to work as an independent contractor and maybe take some of the overnight shifts at a lower cost if he's not having to, travel into the building? It might be something that would be mutually beneficial to see if maybe for a flat fee of a certain amount per day that's a discounted rate, he could assist with this.
So, I'm going to only answer the part far as he will be considered a volunteer like everyone else. Far as the contractual, being a contractor, on premises, that's something the board would have to make a decision on. But, he would volunteer during the day like all the other residents would.
Melina, I want to just jump in with a online question, which was directed to me, but I'll share just in general, which is, are there any commercially available pumps for purchase, or is this a customized um, device that we have to have?
So it is customized for the
Okay.
scope.
Okay, so that's a customized device.
Mhm.
Okay, Hank, thank you for your patience.
Sure. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to suggest, having done the Crime Watch years ago, that it might be beneficial to try to block the volunteers in the building during a certain period of time and then have an outside contractor cover the rest of the time. So for instance, if the staff is covering it, let's say from 9 a.m. till noon, let's say, and then we try to get volunteers from noon to 8 p.m., then maybe we could just have, the outside people come in like from 8 p.m. until the following 8 a.m. or 10 a.m., whatever.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I don't see how it would work where we have to build a schedule where we have slots that are kind of filled in between and have people coming and going all day and all night.
I think that's a sound point. I actually was thinking along the same lines when we were first started this, which is we certainly can't have the external contractors, reporting for an hour and then going away for an hour and then coming back for 2 and then coming, So yeah, we want to definitely make this blocks of time. Basically there'll be a staff block, a volunteer block, and a contractor block, as we see it now. And if we organize it along those lines, I think it probably will be beneficial, as you suggest. All right. Other members of the community want to ask any questions? I can probably get a couple more questions in before we go to the main motion at hand. Okay. All right. All right. I'm going to return now just out of question and answer or forum and invite a motion, I think, at this point. Would any board member like to make a motion that we enter into the agreement with BFPE for the purposes of the emergency fire pump repair replacement in the amount of $109,155? And I'll repeat that just for Valerie's benefit because she's got to get the motion down. So the motion is that we enter into an agreement with BFPE for the repair and or replacement of the emergency fire pump in the amount of $109,155. If anyone would like to make that motion, please indicate by saying so moved.
So moved.
So moved by Mark. If there is no further discussion on it, we can proceed to take a vote. Motion made by Mark, no second needed. With small boards, don't need a second. It's nice to have them, but we don't need them. Motion made by Mark. All in favor, so indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Valerie?
Aye.
All right, yeah, I see her raising her hand. Okay.
Aye.
I see affirmation. Okay. So yes, the motion is passed by a vote of 5-0, and so that agreement can be signed. Melina, whenever you need me to sign it, as you know, I'm in the building working from home, so I can sign it as early as tomorrow. That concludes that. So it seems like we have our short-term solution of the Fire Watch with different blocks, some staff coverage, some resident volunteering, some contractor first pay. We'll see how that balance comes around. I would say the medium-term solution, for lack of a better term, is Melina's gonna see if she can prevail upon the fire marshal to understand that we're operating in good faith, and can we show some intermediary steps, as Kyle correctly I think mentioned. And then the longer term solution, of course, is that we will actually have the new device. And although it's expensive, as I said, this is really just an acceleration of a cost that the reserve study had anticipated for 2027. So I'll end the meeting the way I started, which is we'd all love for the reserve study to be, underestimating the lifespan of a major piece of equipment. It happened to be a few years early, but reasonably accurate. So I actually have some good confidence in that reserve study because they pinned up that equipment to within a couple of years. All right. If there is no further business from any board member, and I don't think there is, I'm going to. Yes, sir, Kyle.
Sorry, do we want to give Melina just a little bit of leeway if it's making the contract to get those minor deficiencies fixed sooner? It costs a little bit more, and I don't know what we want to define as little bit, maybe like $5,000 or 10, whatever. Do we authorize her to do those things? Because I think showing the city of Alexandria as well as the fire marshal that, hey, we're doing what we can as fast as we can with supply, demand, and supply chain and all the other things might be worth giving her that little bit of leeway if that makes things expedited. Over.
Okay. Yeah, we could certainly make a motion just authorizing a no greater than amount for her to exercise discretion in the management of this contract. I mean, it's 109. I mean, is 10,000 acceptable? Do you think reasonable? 25,000.
I'd be happy with that. I'd be happy with 10 if that means I'm going after the minor things, right? Not the big thing.
Okay.
So it might cost them a couple $100 more a time to come out here and replace, the one little thing here and the one little thing there. And I just think it's worth a couple $100 or, a couple $1,000, to show this to make sure we don't get fines. Because looking up the fines, that's a comma fine monthly.
Oh, yes.
So
yeah,
I think we want to try to avoid that at any case we can, and on top of the fire marshal or the fire walking stuff. So I'd propose like $10,000 more if that gets things fixed, the minor things fixed sooner. Just give her that leeway. Hopefully we don't need it, but if it does, she doesn't have to come back to the board with it. She can just get executed.
Yep. Anybody on the board want to speak against that or?
Can I just ask a point of clarification on the quote? Is that a firm fixed price quote or a T&M, time and material quote?
It's the actual quote for the equipment and provide training to who's overseeing it. The additional is the installation of what we do not have is the backflow preventer. And the disconnect and reconnect of the.
No, I guess I might not have asked my question
I'm
clearly.
sorry, go ahead.
Is it, they're not, it's not variable. If it takes longer than they thought, they don't have, they're locked in at that 109,000.
Yes,
Okay,
I would double check that tomorrow and confirm that though, before
Okay.
Tom signs it. I would definitely do that.
okay. I mean, sometimes if they have a clause that allows them that if things are more complicated, then they can change it. Like that's a starting point, not a not to exceed point. Assuming that that's not a not to exceed point, and we are authorizing a 10K for scope change in case something happens, so you don't have to come back to the board. That makes sense to me, Tom.
So a motion could sound like this, that Melina, the general manager, is authorized to expend at her, Melina is authorized to expend an amount not greater than $10,000 in order to accelerate repairs of the fire pump. Is that the sum and substance of what we might say? Seems
Yeah, I
reasonable
would
to me.
say that that the board's agreeing that you can authorize Melina on your own accord to expend $10,000 more to expedite any minor of the repairs. And then to Ginger's point, firm fixed price, I think absolutely needs to be in the contract, and we lock them in
Okay.
at this rate as well.
Okay. All right. So I guess the motion would be that Melina is authorized to exceed by up to $10,000 over and above the contract price for intermediate or minor fixes, so that she doesn't have to come back to the board. Valerie, do you think you have a reasonable verbiage on that? It's not my best motion, folks. Sorry.
Yes, I do. I've added in that the 109, 155 is a firm fixed price, and based on what Ginger just said, that's the scope change is up to 10 grand over 109, 155 for the BFPE.
Okay. So would anyone like to move that Melina be authorized to for scope change be authorized to expend up to $10,000 in the furtherance of this effort?
So moved.
So moved by Mark. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right.
Okay,
Motion passes 5-0. So Melina, you have some wiggle room there as well, Melina.
So I do want to confirm with the residents that the fire alarm inspection itself, the fire alarms, they work, they pass. Everyone wants to be alarmed with that. So that does function properly. It passed. I just want to put that out there.
All right. All right. Well, I will end just by saying, it's always a good idea. This is just a time of the year too with Christmas trees and stuff. Let's just all be super careful so that all of this, we look back on this as being a moot point. But let's just all exercise that, especially good fire safety. And there being no further business for this meeting, I adjourn the meeting at 7:48 p.m. Thank you very much and have a very pleasant rest of your night and happy holidays to you.
Happy
Happy
holidays.
holidays to you as well.